So good afternoon, I'm Tom Harmon, and I am very fortunate to be the director of the National Highway Institute. Today I want to talk to you about three things: expectation, outcome, and assessment. So to put this in context, this is my beautiful used Home Depot truck. I love this truck. I saw it in the backyard. It had 100,000 miles when I got it, and it gets me to and from. It's a Chevy Colorado. So my wife and I, several years ago, were going to Ocean City, and my daughter, who was about 2 years into driving, had decided that since it was AJ and she's Ashley Jeanette, that this was her vehicle. So she called me down at the beach and said, "Dad, is it okay if I paint the truck?" My expectation was, she's into Disney, we talked about that. I'm gonna have Mickey Mouse on the tailgate. My outcome,
Oh, wow.
when I came around and I saw that in the driveway, I stopped, my wife screamed, I laughed. I said, "Oh, look, this is Ashley's truck. I should not be surprised by this because this is what my daughter does." So, expectation, outcome, assessments. How do we assess that? So, let's put this into context of training, right? What makes a great, and it should change from the last time I gave this because we've been talking about things. What makes a great presentation of training to you? What's the first thing Chuck said?
I get something out of it.
Okay, excellent. Ready? Catch. You just got something out of it? By the way, if I throw this and you don't want it, just do that. I'll stop. These are espresso candies, Italian espresso candies. So if you want to participate, you get something. You get something out of it. I can do that. What else?
Yeah, interesting.
It's got to be interesting. Really important. Really important. What else?
Learn something new.
Learn something new. Todd, you got it. What else?
Defined and focused.
Defined and focused. Perfect. Yes?
I get a certificate at the end of it?
You get a certificate at the end. There we go.
What about some candy?
Perfect. So, how do we decide what we're going to say? Because here's the thing. You guys are so smart. I am blown away with the talent in this room. And if we were to squeeze the brain, we would be here for years trying to cover just a simple subject. So how do we decide what to say, and then what tools to use, and also what tools not to use? Because certain things can become traps. And then how do we measure success? I think Ashley successfully got herself a pickup truck out of this. That's my son Connor. How does he measure success? He defies gravity whenever he can. So I want to introduce you to three friends of mine, Benjamin, Don, and David, and then I want to hear from you. Now, I like to listen. I want you to know this is an interactive menu, so I don't have to be linear in this presentation. I can click on any of their faces and it will take me to their section, just showing I can learn stuff. So, where shall we go first? I'm going to suggest the first one, and then you guys can pick the next one. I'd like to start with David, if that's okay, and just talk what I've learned from him. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click, and there we go. So David Merle is an educational researcher. He's in Utah, and he is infamous for saying, if a product does not teach, it has no value. And as I shared with you before, early in my career as an engineer, I would give talks and workshops and presentations, but I wasn't necessarily sure if I was changing behavior of those individuals. Was I making them think that form work and false work are the most important thing for public safety? Was I making them think? So when they went back to their job, they did something different. This is the challenge. Now, this word value vexes me as the director of the National Highway Institute, because I want to make sure we deliver training that is in the shortest duration possible to convey what the people need to do to go back and bring it to practice. So that value one's the one that really challenges me. So I'm going to go up here now. This is not my mouse, so it's going to be a little tricky. Ah, look, it took me back there. Hey, look, I can do it, I can do it. So, shall we go to Benjamin or Don next? What do you think? Don, you're going to mix up my presentation to see if I can carry the flow. That's nice. I appreciate all that. Let's go up here. Excellent. So, our next stop in this discussion is 1959. And a very young Donald Kirkpatrick wrote 4 articles for the Journal of the American Society of Training and Directors. And in that, he described a framework of the levels of which a training program should try and achieve. And these became known as the Kirkpatrick levels. Level 1 is simply the reaction of the audience. Participants, either they're happy or not, don't really know anything about the content. Level 2 is there was some kind of assessment, a test. Do you know the difference between a crack, something in tension, something in compression? Level 3, did they take it back to their job? And level 4 is the gold standard. You have targeted outcomes, and they are a result, and there's accountability of the training, which is awesome. So when we think about activities we do, and this is where the out of sync doesn't work so well, we're doing it anyhow. I just realized that, making it asynchronous. We haven't talked about this yet, but you already know this because you were in this class. Typical presentation, we don't really think about how we're going to lay out learning outcomes or necessarily the assessment tools. So that leaves us feeling good that we talked and we got applause, but we're not really sure about the impact to our workforce. You'll know if you got the job or not, but maybe you just did an okay job presenting and they really liked what you said. Typical workshop, there's usually some kind of assessment there, but I'll tell you, a lot of the questions that I see people put together, they're either blatantly obvious or they're just trying to be tricky. You really need assessment tools that effectively assess the learning outcomes. And then within NHI, we go through a robust assessment of our learning outcomes. We target that our subject matter experts understand these, and we hopefully deliver things that are both relevant to the audience and impact the workforce. That's what we're striving for. So in the what's in it for you, the next time you do a training or presentation or talk to somebody, you can think about from a outcome base what your message is going to be, and then try and cut out all the other extraneous stuff. If you can say it golden in 5 minutes as opposed to spending 3 hours lecturing, that's perfect, because ultimately you want to be impactful with what you do. Whoops, where's page up? So you will notice I did not disable those keys. And this is not my mouse pad, so.
I was going to say, do you need me to come forward?
Yeah, I might need you to come forward. There we go. Let's see if I can do this.
There you go.
All right, so let's go over and say hi to Ben for a second. So our next stop now is the 1950s. And here we have a young Benjamin Bloom working with the University of Chicago, trying to come up with better curriculum and criteria and assessment tools. And this was the birth of something known as Bloom's Taxonomy. Here what Ben did was he looked at the cognitive, the way we think about things, and the knowledge base that we're trying to convey, and relate those to learning outcomes. Now the word taxonomy is defined as the branch of science concerned with the classification of systems. It's typically used for organisms, like the taxonomy of fossils, but he liked it with his name, so that's how we got taxonomy. It's just categorization. So, let's say I wanted to discuss juggling. Maybe not how to juggle or to actually demonstrate juggling, because that would be bad. The cognitive side of the house in the taxonomy looks at the range of just remembering what juggling is, understanding the basic concepts, how to apply, maybe how to analyze juggling. Like you could say, that's really not good juggling up there, right? How to evaluate, and then how to even be creative with that. On the knowledge-based side, the factual components, conceptual, procedural, and then the metacognitive. That's the deep thought, the strategic aspect of it, thinking about the thought process. So what Bloom put together was a matrix, a taxonomy, categorization, and from that you can identify the learning outcomes you think you want to apply, see where they fit within this, and this would define a training on maybe juggling. The goal is not to fill out every block, because that would be the 5-year-long training. The goal is to give the learner what they need to do what you're asking them to do, and nothing more. You don't need to know Newtonian physics to be able to juggle. If that was true, because I know Newtonian physics, I could juggle better. So Let's look at the cognitive side of the house. Where do you think recalling would fall in this spectrum? Remember, there are prizes. Where do you think it falls?
Remember?
Remember?
Remember. All right?
Oh, I see.
Where do you think? Oh, you said
There we go.
criticize it, critique it, analyze.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
okay.
right there, too.
One of you two got it, right? You think? Ah, there we go. She still got the candy. Oh, she's not going to give it back either.
Nope.
All right. How about executing?
Apply.
Apply. That one's pretty easy. Who said apply? You again? I can do that. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now let's see if I can mess this up one last time. I can go up here. There's the rest of them. Let me click on that. I want to go over to my ear. Page back up. I understand why now, when it's not your computer and you're not. So let's do a quick evaluation. Would David most likely find that NHI courses are of value?
Sure.
And Tom Elliott will tell you not all of them. We have some that need to be updated. Which of these educators' tools is designed to assess learning outcomes? What do you think? You want more candy? Bloom. He's like, it's Bloom. I know it's Bloom. But, you know, actually, either one would give them right because Kirkpatrick also looks at learning outcomes as well. But the taxonomy specifically looks at that. And then, which Kirkpatrick level did we just do? What do you think? Sure, yeah. This is just how the audience feels it, learners feel about it. Some assessment. They take it back to their job. Learning outcomes align. Which one? Two.
Learning.
No more candy. Two, exactly, correct.
3 is the maximum?
I heard
Three's the
two,
maximum.
I heard two back here.
You heard two back here? Okay. I haven't thrown back there yet. Let's see. Oh, look at that, beautiful. Okay, so now here, I started with these as kind of vague learning outcomes. I didn't know what Bloom's taxonomy was or how these things would apply, but if I was going to use Bloom's words, my learning outcomes for you today, and I hope they're right, is to define and explain the role of Bloom's taxonomy and the Kirkpatrick levels in setting your learning outcomes and also understanding what you want to do in that, and assessing the impact for your learners. I have one more. I know you're not supposed to do 3, but I have one more. Agree that Joanna is right. She is awesome. We all agree with that. As always, I am looking for your input. When you're teaching a class, you're taking a class, or maybe you saw something crazy new. And you're like, wow, this is a great learning product. I want to hear about that as well. That's Miss Ginger. And as always, I end on a good note. This is the daughter that painted my truck and made it hers. And that is very true. So with that, any questions?